Let's maul in the Central Committee. Let's cringe in the Central Committee. Let's bog in the Central Committee right now.
Okay. Matt Gaetz accused of sex trafficking. Let's start off with the background. Now, you all know about Nestor. Hashtag free Nestor. Can we get some hashtag free Nestors in the chat? Apparently, the story gets even weirder. Nestor Galban is the young college student Congressman Matt Gaetz describes as his son, although Gaetz never formally adopted him. Galban moved to the United States from Cuba when he was 12 to live with his older sister who was dating Gaetz at the time. The two formed a bond, and Galban told the magazine, Gaetz raised me as his own son. Now, apparently, Gaetz never adopted him. So when he calls him his son, that was not true. And the reason why we know about Nestor... Now, if you don't know this, chat, this is a pattern that pedophiles follow. This is a pattern that pedophiles follow, which is they date women that have young children that are vulnerable. This is absolutely something that happens. The fact that Matt Gaetz is doing this, apparently he has been dating people that are either underage or just barely legal as a congressman. So let's cover the article from the New York Times. Matt Gaetz is said to face Justice Department inquiry over sex with underage girl. An inquiry into the Florida congressman was opened in the final months of the Trump administration. People briefed on it said. Now, hey, QAnoners! Hey, QAnon! Where are you? Hey, QAnon, where are you? Yet another Republican being accused right out in the open. Look at this photo, chat. Look at this photo. This is the conservative movement in a nutshell. This is it. I guess he's canceled after all by the Trump's Department of Justice. QAnon are already placing the blame on the liberal media. Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, close ally of Trump, is being investigated by the Justice Department over whether he had sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl and paid for her to travel with him. Investigators are examining whether Mr. Gaetz violated federal sex trafficking laws. A variety of federal statutes make it illegal to induce someone under 18 to travel over state lines to engage in sex for money or something of value. The Justice Department regularly prosecutes such cases, and offenders often receive severe sentences. It's not clear how Mr. Gaetz met the girl, believed to be 17 at the time of the encounters about 2 years ago, that investigators are scrutinizing, according to two of the people. The investigation was opened in the final months of the Trump administration under Attorney General William P. Barr. The two people said, given Mr. Gaetz' national profile, senior Justice Department officials in Washington, including some appointed by Mr. Trump, were notified of the investigation, the people said. The three people said that the examination of Mr. Gaetz is part of a broader investigation into a political ally of his, a local official in Florida named Joel Greenberg, who was indicted last summer on an array of charges, including sex trafficking of a child and financially supporting people in exchange for sex, at least one of whom was an underage girl. QAnon! Hey, QAnon! You there? Hey, one of Trump's closest allies. Hey, QAnon. Mr. Greenberg, who has since resigned his post as tax collector in Seminole County, north of Orlando, visited the White House with Mr. Gaetz in 2019. No charges have been brought against Mr. Gaetz, and the extent of his criminal exposure is unclear. Mr. Gaetz said in an interview that his lawyers had been in touch with the Justice Department and that they were told he was subject, not the target of investigation. I only know that it has to do with women, Mr. Gaetz said. I have a suspicion that someone is trying to recategorize my generosity to ex-girlfriends as something more untoward. Mr. Gaetz called the investigation part of an elaborate scheme involving false sex accusations to extort him and his family for $25 million that began this month. He said that his father, Don Gaetz, had been cooperating with the FBI and wearing a wire after they were approached by people saying they can make the investigation go away. Mr. Gaetz claimed the disclosure of the sex trafficking inquiry was intended to thwart an investigation into the extortion plot. In a second interview, later Tuesday, the congressman said that he had no plans to resign his House seat and denied that he had romantic relationships with minors. It is verifiably false that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman. It's also illegal for you to pay a 17-year-old woman to travel to you. Representatives for the Justice Department of the FBI declined to comment. This is lawyer statement, lawyerly, so you have to be very precise with what he is and isn't saying. As a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Central Florida, Mr. Greenberg pleaded not guilty last year and was sent to jail this month for violating the terms of his bail. He's scheduled to go on trial in June in Orlando. A frequent presence on Fox News and other conservative media, Mr. Gaetz has recently mused with confidants about quitting elected politics and taking a full-time job with the conservative television network Newsmax or another network, according to a person familiar with the conversations. Axios first reported on Tuesday that Mr. Gaetz was considering leaving Congress. Mr. Greenberg maintained ties to controversial figures who have supported Mr. Trump, and an examination of court records, social media posts, and a far-right website showed. A website run by a member of the far-right group the Proud Boys and a network of fake social media accounts linked to Mr. Trump. Romeo's losing it. Can you guys hear him? Can you hear Romeo? He's losing it. Okay, he's stopped. He's quiet now. He doesn't usually bark, so this is a rarity. He doesn't usually do that. How many days? I stream every day. How often do you hear that? He hears me talking about Gaetz and is protecting me. Longtime political advisor Roger Stone have promoted false accusations about Mr. Greenberg's rivals, similar to rumors that prosecutors accused Mr. Greenberg of secretly trying to spread. So in other words, the Proud Boys and Donald Trump and Roger Stone are trying to protect a pedo. What a surprise. This is my incredibly surprised face. It's unclear how Mr. Greenberg knew either Matt Gaetz or Mr. Stone. He posted a selfie with both in 2017, tweeting, "Great catching up." Why is this pedo verified? With 2,000 followers? How come this pedo is verified with 2,000 followers? Well, when I tell him to bark, yeah. Hey, Jack. Hey, Jack, why is this pedo verified? Blockchain pioneer. I wonder what he was buying with the blockchain money. The following year, Mr. Gaetz expressed support for Mr. Greenberg's successful bid for local office, predicting he would someday make a great member of Congress. On Capitol Hill, Mr. Gaetz has embraced the role of villain to the left as much as he has served as one of Mr. Trump's staunchest defenders and enablers, often with theatrical flair. He wore a gas mask on the House floor last year in the early days of the pandemic, insisting he was demonstrating concern for public safety amid accusations he was mocking the seriousness of the spread of coronavirus. Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida came to Washington in 2017 with a reputation for bipartisan deal cutting in the state legislature and spent a year idling behind the slow-moving minivans in the House Republican conference like a Mustang stuck in traffic. He decided to go the full Trump. With a near constant presence on the president's favorite network and a penchant for own the libs outrageousness, Mr. Gaetz has, in short order, become the lawmaker Democrats love to loathe. It's all part of the plan. In a world where the body politic has the attention span at times of a goldfish, yep, you've got to have the ability to reinvent yourself in this game many times. I did one cable news hit during my first 10 months in Congress. Yeah. And now it's only a couple of years later, and the New York Times is sitting in my office asking me about my life. The only thing that's changed is a little bit of time and a whole lot of cable. All right, chat. Let's hit one of those. Let's watch some of those cable hits. You want to watch some of those cable hits? What do you think? What do you think, chat? You want to watch some of the cable hits?
Congressman, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. So this is obviously a serious allegation. Tell us what the truth is from your perspective.
It is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case.
Okay.
What is happening is an extortion of me and my family.
Oh my God. It doesn't matter if he traveled with the 17-year-old. The question is, did he pay a 17-year-old to travel across state lines for sex? If yes, that is a federal offense. It's not if he traveled with the child. It's did the child travel for you in exchange for money and for the purpose of sex. It's not what he's... so his right off the bat, yikes.
Family involving a former Department of Justice official. On March 16th, my father got a text message demanding a meeting wherein a person demanded $25 million in exchange for making horrible sex trafficking allegations against me go away.
Now, chat. If somebody calls me and says, Mike, you owe me $25 million for sex trafficking allegations, I say, good luck, because there's no evidence, bro. And I just record the conversation, screenshot the message, and then say, do your worst, dude. I don't go, you verifiably look at my travel records, because I'm not paying any 17-year-olds. Isn't this the plot to the Righteous Gemstones? I have no idea what that is.
Our family was so troubled by that, we went to the local FBI. And the FBI and the Department of Justice were so concerned about this attempted extortion of a member of Congress that they asked my dad to wear a wire, which he did with the former Department of Justice official. Tonight, I am demanding that the Department of Justice and the FBI release the audio recordings that were made under their supervision and at their direction, which will prove my innocence and that will show that these allegations aren't true.
He's got the Tucker Carlson face. This is the Tucker. Here's my best attempt at the Tucker Carlson face. His mouth is so small, I can't do it. How is his mouth so small? I just realized how tiny his little mouth is. Hey, Aegis, yeah.
They're merely intended to try to bleed my family out of money.
There's more.
Promising that Joe Biden would pardon me. Obviously, I don't need a pardon. I'm not seeking a pardon. I have not done anything improper or wrong. Era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act. You were accused of something that you did not do, and so you know what this feels like. You know,
Tucker Carlson is not going to want you to do that. He's never going to bring you on his show again. What are you doing? What an idiot. Also, I didn't know about that.
Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is under federal investigation for playing some role in sex trafficking and potentially having a relationship with a 17-year-old girl. There are very few details in major news outlets tonight about this story. We have no background on it all and not even any very informed questions. Instead, we've invited Congressman Gaetz on the show to respond to these stories.
What the
and give
hell?
us his view of them.
Wait, really? You bring someone on the... I don't think he's highest rated anymore. Second highest rated cable show. And then you don't even read the article first? Like, what?
Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. So this is obviously a serious allegation. Tell us what the truth is from your perspective.
it is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case. What is happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official. On March 16th, my father got a text message demanding a meeting wherein a person demanded $25 million in exchange for making...
If you're 17, you're not a woman. You're a teenager. You're an adolescent. You are not a woman. You could say young woman if you're being patronizing. As a 17-year-old, I'm not trying to say a 17-year-old has no agency, but what I am saying is you don't call, when you're being accused of having sex with a 17-year-old, you don't say 17-year-old woman. Pretty weird. You could hear Matt's quivering, voice quivering. Yikes. Yikes. I joined the army when I was 17, but you needed parental permission. And I don't like that policy anyway, quite frankly. I had my first kid at 17. I hope you got the support of friends and family. It's a famous Britney Spears song, I'm Not a Girl, I'm Not Yet a Woman. Oh no, not just, God damn it.
Horrible sex trafficking allegations against me go away. Our family was so troubled by that, we went to the local FBI. And the FBI and the Department of Justice were so concerned about this attempted extortion of a member of Congress that they asked my dad to wear a wire, which he did with the former Department of Justice official. Tonight, I am demanding that the Department of Justice and the FBI release the audio recordings that were made under their supervision and at their direction, which will prove my innocence and that will show that these allegations aren't true. They're merely intended to try to bleed my family out of money. And this former Department of Justice official tomorrow was supposed to be contacted by my father so that specific instructions could be given regarding the wiring of $4.5 million as a down payment on this bribe. I don't think it's a coincidence that tonight, somehow, the New York Times is leaking this information, smearing me, and ruining the investigation that would likely result in one of the former colleagues of the current DOJ being brought to justice for trying to extort me and my family.
So a couple of obvious questions that come to mind, and again, just to restate, this just happened, don't have any other information beyond what we've already said and you have said. First of all, who is this Department of Justice former employee who's trying to extort the money from you, you say?
His name is David McGee. He was a top official in the leadership in the Northern District of Florida as a prosecutor. He currently works at the Beggs and Lane law firm. As a matter of fact, one of the recordings that was made at the FBI and Department of Justice request occurred at that law firm, and the money that was supposed to be paid today that would have shown even more evidence of David McGee's work in this extortion scheme, that was foiled by the New York Times story, and I believe that's why this horrible information and these terrible allegations have been...
I'm sorry, Chad. If your name is McGee, I can never take you seriously. McGee has been ruined for me forever. A totally respectable name, McGee. Now, whenever someone says McGee, I just want to laugh. God damn it.
Been used this evening.
Poor McGee's. The McGee's of the world.
So you're, and I'll get to the investigation in a sec, but you're saying that David McGee was motivated by greed. He was trying to extort money from your family. That's his motivation, you're saying?
I know that there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment that he could make this investigation go away along with his co-conspirators. They even claim to have specific connections inside the Biden White House. Now, I don't know if that's true. They were promising that Joe Biden would pardon me. Obviously, I don't need a pardon. I'm not seeking a pardon. I have not done anything improper or wrong. But what I am troubled by is the...
Okay, so recap for everybody who's just popping in. Matt Gaetz accused of trafficking a 17-year-old woman. He's close friends with someone who's currently being prosecuted in Florida for sex trafficking. His name is Joel Greenberg. Matt Gaetz is also unbelievably one of the only people in Congress to vote against a major sex trafficking bill.
So why then would I be the only no vote in the entire Congress against legislation that had human trafficking in the title? So why then?
Anyway, going back to the only guy who voted no on the sex trafficking bill being accused of sex trafficking.
The real motivation for all of this. You know, just tonight, Ted Lieu, a Democrat, is calling on me to be removed from the House Judiciary Committee. And I believe we are in an era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act.
Oh my God! If I were Tucker Carlson, I would be so pissed off. Holy shit, dude. You're not going to win Tucker Carlson over relitigating his sex accusations. What are you doing, dude? Did Tucker even react when he said that? Did Tucker react?
Real motivation for all of this. You know, just tonight, Ted Lieu, a Democrat, is calling on me to be removed from the House Judiciary Committee. And I believe we are in an era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act. You were accused of something that
he didn't react. Is he dead? Is he dead?
You did not do, and so you know what this feels like. You know the pain it can bring to your family.
Okay, hold on, chat. Wait a minute. I think I had this. There's always a tweet. 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 Oh, no, 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 no.
And you know how it just puts people on defense when you're accused of something so salacious and awful, but it did not happen. It is not true. And the fact that it is the basis of this attempt to extort my family tells a lot. And if the FBI and Department of Justice will release the tapes that they are in possession of, the American people will see what is really going on.
You just referred to a mentally ill viewer who accused me of a sex crime 20 years ago. And of course, it was not true. I'd never met the person. But I do agree with you that being accused falsely is one of the worst things that can happen. And you do see it a lot. Let's go back to the investigation. You say that it was...
What? Okay. It has happened, but you, quote, don't see it a lot. This is what the rapists say. Oh, false accusations happen all the time. That's what a rapist says. Now, they have happened, and no one is immune to having a false accusation made. That is a thing. That's why we investigate. We don't just assume that you are guilty automatically. But characterizing them as like super common, while you know nothing about this accusation, is super irresponsible and gross, man. Actual rape culture, dude. I think he was trying to distance himself and present Tucker's case as way more false. I mean, still.
That it was or is underway. There was an investigation. What is the basis of that investigation? What is the allegation? That's really not very clear from these news stories.
Another one?
Yeah, again, I only know what I've read in the New York Times. I can...
Oh, yeah, chat. Yeah, the Gaetz thing. Yeah, I tweeted about this. See, if you follow me on Twitter, chat, deal, I want Gaetz. This was on March 25th. 5 whole days, LMAO. So in other words, apparently he knew he was being investigated and he was being extorted, because this was 5 days ago. This was 5 days ago. I guess he wanted everyone to call it Gatesgate instead of Gaetz is a pedo.
Say that actually Allegedly. You and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there, and I brought a friend of mine. You'll remember her. And she was actually threatened by the FBI, told that if she wouldn't cop to the fact that somehow I was involved in some pay-for-play scheme, that she could face trouble. And so I do believe that there are people at the Department of Justice who are trying to smear me, providing for flights and hotel rooms for people that you're dating who are of legal age is not a crime. And I'm just troubled that the lack of any sort of legitimate investigation into me would then convert into this extortion attempt.
I don't remember the woman you're speaking of or the context at all, honestly. But I would like to know who. So they're saying there is a 17-year-old girl who you had a relationship with. Is that true? And who are they? Who is this girl? What are they talking about, the New York Times?
The person doesn't exist. I have not had a relationship with a 17-year-old. That is totally false. The allegation, as I read it in the New York Times, is that I've traveled with some 17-year-old in some relationship.
Wait, you're being extorted. What are you being extorted for?
That is false, and records will bear that out to be false.
How long has this investigation been going on? Do you know?
I don't know.
When were you first informed of it?
Again, I really saw this as a deeply troubling challenge for my family on March 16th, when people were, talking about a minor and that there were pictures of me with child prostitutes. That's obviously false. There will be no such pictures because no such thing happened. But really on March 16th was when this got going from the extortion standpoint.
So what happens next? I mean, you can say there is this investigation, I guess a criminal investigation. I'm not quite sure where the sex trafficking part comes in. I don't, again, for the 5th time, I don't really understand this story very well. But where does it go?
Why does Tucker Carlson go on his show on Fox News that has millions of dollars of producing budget available, and always like, I don't understand, I don't get it, no one's explained it to me? You have an entire newsroom of purported journalists and producers there to explain it to you. Plausible deniability. Yes, yes, that's what I'm getting at. Thank you, chatters. You're very smart. You're jumping ahead of me. Motherfucker. And then he's like, oh, we went to dinner and you had a girlfriend. I don't remember that dinner. Man, Matt Gaetz is trying to drag down Tucker Carlson with him. Holy shit. Holy shit.
From here, I mean, you've made an allegation against someone by name on the air and accused him of trying to extort millions of dollars from your family.
That's, by the way, that's defamation, chat. If you accuse someone of committing a crime, that is textbook defamation. And you can be sued for that. You can't sue people. You can't say people committed crimes and name them without being sued. And he didn't say he's allegedly doing it or we have to find out more. He said he committed extortion against me. That's defamation, folks. And if that was somebody who worked at the DOJ, I'd be getting a lawyer ready.
What happens tomorrow?
Well, what was supposed to happen was the transfer of this money that would have implicated the former colleague of these current DOJ officials. But that's obviously not going to happen tomorrow because the New York Times story was leaked in order to quell that investigative effort. So here's what needs to happen next.
Yeah, that's what it was.
The FBI and the Department of Justice must release the tapes that are in their possession that were done at their direction. Those tapes will show that I am innocent and that the whole concept of sex charges against me was really just a way to try to bleed my family out of money and probably smear my name because I am a well-known, outspoken conservative, and I guess that's out of style in a lot of parts of the country right now.
Matt Gaetz, I appreciate your coming on tonight.
Thanks for giving me the chance to tell the truth, Tucker. I appreciate it.
It's a more interesting and complicated story than that I knew from reading about it. Thank you very much. Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted. That story just appeared in the news a couple of hours ago. And on the certainty that there's always more than you read in the newspaper, we immediately called Matt Gaetz and asked him to come on and tell us more, which, as you saw, he did. I don't think that clarified much, but it certainly showed this is a deeply interesting story, and we'll be following it. Don't quite understand it, but we'll bring you more when we find out.
Now, one of the things that's so amazing about Pizzagate is we talked about Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, one of Trump's biggest Jim Jordan, a congressman from Ohio, one of the biggest Trump supporters, has been accused of covering up a pedophile doctor at Ohio State. Hundreds of former wrestlers at Ohio State have come out, including a former captain of the Ohio State wrestling team, testified that Jim Jordan asked him in 2018 to deny allegations that abuse by a former teen doctor was widely known within the program. Jim Jordan caught. Huge Trump supporter, covering up a pedo doctor who later killed himself. Matt Gaetz adopts, but not really, a 12-year-old Cuban boy and is now accused of sex trafficking another woman. And then Donald Trump himself, accused by dozens of women of sexual assault and rape. And I'm not even done. The longest serving Republican Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert.
Meanwhile, Matt Gaetz is going throughout hell on Twitter because of Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz, poor Matt Gaetz. Dennis Hastert, the longest serving Republican Speaker of the House. Here he is, Dennis Hastert, the longest serving Republican Speaker of the House in history. He was indicted and convicted in 2015 of financial crimes related to paying hush money to cover up repeated incidents of child molestation before his political career when he was a coach in high school. He was sentenced to 15 months in prison. They're talking about Democrats? You got Donald Trump. You got Dennis Hastert. You got Jim Jordan. You got Matt Gaetz. That's just the start. You know what happened in Pennsylvania? This just happened. Former
Pennsylvania State Senator will spend up to 2 years in prison for possession of child pornography. 64-year-old Mike Fulmer will also be registered as a sex offender for 15 years. Fulmer pleaded guilty to child pornography charges in February. He resigned from the Senate last September after investigators found images of child pornography on his cell phone. Fulmer represented a district in Lebanon County.
Now, I know about
Breaking
Fulmer.
right now, Pfizer BioNTech.
So why is this Fulmer guy, Fulmer guy, why is he famous? Well, Pennsylvania had a law to extend the statute of limitations for child sex trafficking or child abuse. And Fulmer was one of the leading votes against. Let me see if I can find the story. Sorry, chat. I'm losing narrative momentum, but this is something I wanted to show you. Here it is. There was a law to uncap the statute of limitations for childhood sexual abuse claims. And it failed because of that guy I just posted. I'll have to find the story at some other time because I can't find it. There is a long-term pattern of behavior among senior Trump supporters supporting child sex abuse, child sex trafficking. And yet, Q is talking about Nancy Pelosi and adrenochrome. The GOP is the guild of pedophiles. Absolutely. Roy Moore! Of course! Oh, no. Rep Jim Jordan on Tuesday. My CNN colleague at Ryan Nobles. I believe Matt Gaetz. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit, dude. Where is this story on CNN? I'm not. I want to see this story on CNN, but I'm not seeing it. Holy shit, dude. This story gets creepier and creepier and creepier every single day. Oh, here it is. A Republican said in a statement to CNN that no part of the allegations against me are true, and the claims he are being pushed by people who are targets of an ongoing extortion investigation. All right, hold on. Gaetz identified the former Justice Department official as David McGee, a former federal prosecutor in Florida, now at the firm's Beggs and Lane. In an interview, McGee disputed that he was part of any effort to extort Gaetz or that he was connected to the Justice Department's investigation of possible sex trafficking by the congressman. He said Gaetz' father had called me and asked to talk to me, though McGee declined to say what the conversation entailed. It is completely false. It's a blatant attempt to distract from the fact that he's under investigation for sex trafficking of minors. I have no connection with the case at all, other than one of the 1,000 people who have heard the rumors. Gaetz asserted that his family had been cooperating with the FBI, that his father had even worn a wire to recorded interactions. He said that at the Justice Department's request, his father had made a recording at the Beggs and Lane firm, and that the congressman called on the FBI to release the tapes. I know that there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment that he would make the investigation go away, along with his co-conspirators. McGee said he would welcome the release of that tape of his conversation with the Gaetz father. If there is a tape, play the tape. There's nothing on that tape that is untoward. It is a pleasant conversation of a dad concerned about his son and the trouble his son was in. The investigation into Gaetz' alleged relationship with a 17-year-old grew from a federal case against a different Florida Republican, Joel Greenberg.
So Gaetz tried to bribe the DOJ.
Mr. Frank, thanks for the sub. Joel Greenberg, a former Seminole County tax collector who was charged last summer with sex trafficking of a child and a medley of other offenses. Greenberg abused his access to a statewide database, using it to look up personal information of people with whom he was in sugar daddy relationships, including the minor. and to help produce fake identification documents to facilitate his efforts to engage in commercial sex acts. Holy shit! He is also accused of seeking to undermine a political opponent by surfacing fabricated evidence of racism and misconduct. What the fuck? Greenberg, who pleaded not guilty and is scheduled to go on trial in June, did not respond to a message seeking comment left at what appeared to be a phone number listed for him in public records. He resigned his political office after he was charged. A 2019 photograph that Greenberg posted on Twitter shows him with Gaetz at the White House. Hey, Q! Hey, Q! Hey! Hey, Q! Maybe Q is actually Joe Biden. And maybe Donald Trump was the pedo deep state all along. You know, he did cut taxes on the hyper wealthy and the corporations. You know, he did put kids in cages and separate from their parents. Maybe Donald Trump is actually the pedo. Maybe Donald Trump is the one that was trafficking children. I mean, other than him saying that he does. I don't know. Maybe malarkey is the Q. They took a break mid-interrogation of a witness on the stand. Weird, huh? All right, we're going to go in the Derek Chauvin trial very shortly, chat. Let me just finish this story. As a frequent guest on cable news, Gaetz was sometimes called the Trumpiest member of Congress for his seemingly ceaseless promotion of the former president. A politician from the Florida Panhandle, Gaetz began serving in the state legislature in 2010 when he was best known for pushing to decriminalize marijuana use. In 2016, he won a seat in Congress and as a lawmaker has been an outspoken defense of Trump on impeachment and other issues. A day after the U.S. Capitol riot on June 6th, Gaetz argued without evidence that defenders included members of the leftist movement Antifa masquerading as Trump supporters. In 2019, Gaetz led about 24 GOP lawmakers who stormed into a secure room in the Capitol used for hearing and handling classified information, disrupting witness testimony related to Trump's impeachment. Now, there's one more element of the Matt Gaetz story.
So, like, you have to learn this gross Florida man story in order to get to what allegedly happened here, right? The tax collector from this county in Florida and Congressman Matt Gaetz, they both, incidentally, get elected to public office in 2016. We have multiple pictures and accounts of them together since. In the Seminole County tax collector's office, things go not just bad, but like horror movie bad with the tax collector guy, and culminating in child sex trafficking charges. And now, per the New York Times, Congressman Gaetz,
the new Epstein news? No.
The loudest and proudest and most flamboyant, trolling, pro-Trump member of Congress in the Republican Party, is himself reportedly facing investigation for the same very dark, very serious alleged crime. And, you know, not for nothing, but the year that he and the Seminole County tax collector guy were both sworn into public office for the first time in 2017, which is when this alleged child sex trafficking is supposed to have occurred, both per Gaetz in the New York Times and per prosecutors in the apparently related case of the other guy in Florida.
Amazon vote,
in 2017, when, again, these alleged crimes are said to have occurred. Congressman Matt Gaetz, then in his first year as a congressman, did briefly earn himself some national headlines that you might remember. It was weird at the time. Why is there one member of Congress from either party, from either chamber, one alone, who voted no, who voted against increasing law enforcement funding to combat child sex trafficking? This thing passed unanimously, except for Matt Gaetz. He voted no. Now, according to the New York Times, he's under federal investigation for child sex trafficking. Of course, that vote might just be a coincidence, might be a totally normal part of the story because, you know, sure, every other part of this is totally normal.
Should be in the
Since the
next
Times
couple
published
days,
the story
Rusconda.
tonight, Congressman Gaetz has put out a public statement denying all the allegations. He's now, just in the last hour or so, done an interview on the Fox News channel in which he claims that he is not only innocent, but that this is all part of an elaborate extortion plot targeting his father and trying to get money from his very wealthy family. Also something about a plot to get him a pardon from President Biden. He's making a series of allegations about what this really is. He says it's nothing like what the New York Times says. He's very upset about the charges, specifically denies having any relationship with any underage person. The New York Times, meanwhile, is standing by its reporting. Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
And then chat, we have one more video on Matt Gaetz. It's a classic. We watched it 5 times, but it's not as funny. Not as funny anymore. It's from fellow Pennsylvanian Vic from PA, Victor Berger, follows me on Twitter. For all those wondering, this is my son Nestor. We share no blood, but he is my life. He came from Cuba, legally of course, 6 years ago, and lives with me in Florida. I am so proud of him, and raising him has been the best, most rewarding thing I've done in my life. He didn't adopt him. He's not his son.
So why then would I be the only no vote in the entire Congress against legislation that had human trafficking in the title? I assure you, it's not because I don't think human trafficking is a problem. It absolutely is. But far too often, the best of intentions can lead to mission creep at the federal level. As you guys can see, I've got my helper Nestor here. I'm at my parents' house out in Walton County. We've got the Christmas tree still up, and my mother will be very angry that I took a shot with the Christmas tree in the background because she called it a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, but I think it's delightful. I served as the chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee in the Florida legislature for 2 years. And during that time, Tampa was actually the 3rd worst place in America for human trafficking. So as you can imagine, we had a lot of legislators really interested and concerned about the issue. The main problem we had is that prosecutors couldn't bring human trafficking cases because the elements were too difficult to meet. Specifically, the element of duress. The case in Florida used to be that you had to prove physical duress to bring a human trafficking prosecution, which means someone had to literally put their hands on someone and shove them into a van or an airplane or a boat for a human trafficking event to have occurred. I was part of the leadership that changed that definition so that now economic duress, psychological duress, those forms of duress can meet the duress element so that we can actually bring cases and lock up human traffickers. Lock up human traffickers. Lock up human traffickers. Thanks so much to everyone, and look forward to seeing you soon.
It's different now. It hits super different now. GOP lawmaker condemned for inviting Holocaust denier to State of the Union. Matt Gaetz says Charles Johnson, banned from Twitter for seeking help taking out Black Lives Matter activists, is not a white supremacist. Richard Spencer posted alongside fellow white supremacist Chuck C. Johnson. Matt Gaetz once again hangs out with alleged Holocaust denier Charles Johnson. Chuck C. Johnson with racist killer of Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman. Isn't this amazing, chat? That it's a circle. It's a circle. Racist, Nazi, pedophile. They go hand in hand. What a surprise. And we talked about Matt Gaetz. We talked about the longest serving Republican Speaker of the House. You know what I didn't even bring up? I didn't bring up the Page scandal. Representing Florida legislature, the 16th District of Florida. That's right outside Tampa. Before resigning due to revelations that he sent sexually explicit messages to teenage boys who served as congressional pages. These are basically like little interns. They're underage kids that serve and run around and send messages in Congress. That's the congressional page scandal. The Mark Foley scandal. And I don't think he was the only one. This has happened a number of times. 1983 sex and drug scandal. Oh, they ended the page program in 2011. Okay. Jesus. They actually ended the program because too many Congress people were trying to fuck the kids. But Bill Clinton cheated on his wife with a consenting adult intern. I don't know. Bill Clinton's a fucking creep too. Bill Clinton's a fucking creep, but he's a conservative, so it's not a surprise, right? Republicans couldn't stop raping kids, so they got rid of the program. Yeah. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit, dude. I think the final capper for this story is my not involved in human trafficking t-shirt has people asking a lot of questions already answered by my shirt.
That's praxis.
Ted Lieu tweeted yesterday night, there's Florida statute 794.05 which says a person 24 years of age or older who engages in sexual activity with a person 16 or 17 years of age commits a felony of the second degree. Gaetz appears to be saying she was 18 by the time he bought her airline tickets and hotel room, so technically the federal charges fail. Not a great look and going to get messier. We do politics here every morning starting at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us here on Twitch. We're the morning guy, the morning politics guy, Politics Frogs in every single day, same time, 10 a.m., day in, day out. And we carry you through your morning and early afternoon politics needs. And if you need more, Mike from PA, we have a YouTube channel. We talked about suburbs, the My Pillow guy, Ted Cruz. We talked about DSA. Amazing. Making fun of Tim Pool. Amazing. Look at all of these amazing videos. Get in there, watch them. We have me on Twitter. You got to follow me on Twitter, chat. I'm at 20,614 subs. That means I got like 40 followers on Twitter in the last day. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. Go follow us on Twitter. And of course, join the Discord, where we have an incredible community of left-wing streamers. We have left-wing community. We talk about the stream. We talk about politics. There's gaming content. It's a really awesome, supportive place. Direct action, mutual aid, and you can just let off some steam. And also, you can help produce the show. One of the things I do is I look at the links that are put into the news content suggestions chat room on the Discord. Join the Discord, come hang out, and maybe what you want me to talk about will be part of the next show.